Hey guys, welcome to another Trade Genius podcast. Bob and Phil here. Guys, something is up in the market. We're seeing some similarities that we saw before things like COVID and 9/11. We're going to talk all about it in this video. Let's dive in.
Trade Genius.
Bob, something wicked this way comes, I think. What are you seeing on your radar here?
Yeah, I was enjoying a nice glide up with the market and, the VIX was falling and SVIX was up and we're sitting relaxing Friday up, Monday up into OPEX. And then all of a sudden, after Europe closed, the Iranian Republican Guards or whatever the heck they call themselves put out some vague thing on their website. And next thing you know it, oil's up, gold's up, volatility's up, defense stocks are up. And they all went in unison and they didn't give up the ghost at the end of the day. And so I think people are now bracing for an imminent attack. Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary, actually told one of our carrier battle groups to actually bust a move. Crank up the speed to get into theater faster. That puts two carrier strike groups in there at the same time because they can always hold up. I don't know if I think the Abe Lincoln's coming and the Theodore Roosevelt's going home, but they can hold the Teddy Roosevelt up and have two strike groups in there. They just moved 22 Raptors and F-15s into theater too. So that puts potentially 160 to 180 fighter aircraft in theater, not to mention what's already in theater. So I'm not even sure what else is out there. We're moving a guided missile submarine in there as well, Phil. And, our bombers can, those F-22s, by the way, came from Alaska. Okay, they flew nonstop into the United Kingdom and then off into Cyprus or right into Jordan. So I think it's a little bit of show of force here, saying, hey, we can get in theater in 24 hours with some really, really, really heavy equipment. And the B-2s, they just can fly over at will. So we're probably telling Iran that, look, it's not in your best interest to do it, but you're not part of the country. Even if you're going to get decimated, your pride. These guys have pride and they'll do things that aren't rational. And so I think the worry here is that this is going to turn into something bigger, and also something else weird happened. Normally we don't do political things, but this is really interesting stuff. So what happened with actually the Iron Dome actually has a 96.5% accuracy rate, basically killing what it's supposed to kill. It dropped the football this weekend. So we don't know if the Russians gave the Hezbollah missiles that can juke and jive and defeat a missile coming at it, or it's just an anomaly. And so there's a lot of really interesting things happening here. Russia's getting all anxious because of what's going on in Ukraine. Russia's talking about getting involved. Iran's asking them for extra assets. So I think the big worry in the markets is that this thing could be a regional thing. And I know, Phil, you've talked before, and you're right. War is bullish, but sometimes it could be 3 or 4 days or 3 or 4 weeks before it becomes bullish.
Correct.
When people are more certain about the outcome.
Correct.
And my only worry is that could it be asymmetric? Like instead of Iran hitting there, can they hit here? And if it hits here, then people won't react nearly as positive. So all of a sudden, man, everybody's antennas up. And Phil, this happens every time ahead of time. Somebody knows something, and man, people were just pouring in today.
Yeah, I think you can be actually long volatility, which normally I would say you either are flat or you're short volatility. But right now, I think you can be long volatility. And then to your point too, and we didn't get into it yet, but look at crude oil. Just shooting up, right? And if there's ever a red flag for volatility or geopolitical tensions, it's crude oil. And this thing is waving a big red flag right now.
Everybody is Bob with Trade Genius. Usually I do fun ads. I talk about our service, but I want to be serious with you for a second. We've been helping a lot of people trading for a long time. As you can see here, I want to let them do the talking for me for a change. But most importantly, we want to help you too. If you have not joined our service yet, come check us out. TradeLikeAGenius.com. Full service. We have chat room. We have the algorithms for you. We give trades out every day. We educate you. So go to TradeLikeAGenius.com. Check us out. What you get out of our service is much, much more than what you put into it. And we'd like to see you in the room. Thanks for listening. Yeah, when oil's up, VIX is up, I pay attention. Remember last week I said they're not doing anything because oil's not really engaged. But look at oil in the last 4 or 5 days now. It is skyrocketing. And if you go to the VIX chart back up, Phil, there is a technical pattern here too. It looks like an inverted head and shoulders bottoming move. Now, albeit this is a 5-minute chart, but from 20 to 24 on a VIX is a 20% move.
Right.
That will put pressure on the markets, Phil.
Yeah, no, 100%. There's just a lot of things going on right now. You got Ukraine actually invading invading Russia. I mean, could you imagine if that was the America? I mean, it's unheard of, really. This, I think, hasn't really happened until like World War II, right? So this is a pretty significant development. So it's just, there's a lot of, the thing is though, Bob, if things settle down, you can have a big pump in this market because of all the hedging that's going to come off, right? So that's the other side of the coin too, is how fast things de-escalate. But right now, you have to err on the side of caution. You have to be long volatility for insurance purposes. That's what the funds are doing right now. And I think you're going to see VIX under pressure. And like you said, Iran had some vague post about 2 o'clock, whatever, is that local Iranian time or whatever? I guess we'll have to see what the next 24 hours brings. But usually Bitcoin has a negative knee-jerk reaction anytime there's escalation in the Middle East. We saw that with Israel getting into Gaza. And then we also saw the effects of that in the other markets as well. But to me, what stands out here is exactly the two charts you brought up, VIX and volatility, or VIX, which is volatility, and crude oil. I think they're telling you everything you need to know. It's kind of like when bond market is flexing, bonds are never wrong. The bond market's the smartest guy in the room. Well, that's oil when it comes to geopolitical tensions. And so until you see a release of that, I think you have to be pretty careful here. In terms of like what's going to happen, if it does pop off, like you were mentioning, the first couple of days, I think could be very turbulent for the markets. And even with that going on, I think both in Bitcoin and in the S&P 500, I think those lows are pretty stout. And I think things would have to get really squirrely, like you said. If it goes asymmetrical and all of a sudden it feels like World War III is popping off, then all of that goes out the window. And who knows where the bottom's going to be found. It will be found when things settle back down. So that's really like your outlier risk there. I don't think that's quite where we're at yet, but you just never know, right? That's why black swans are black swans, because they happen and you're not expecting it. So there's a potential.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we're puffing the chest out really big here to make Iran back down. So we'll see what happens. I heard a funny story, Phil, because you're talking about invading America. They said if an enemy ever invaded the South, by the time the U.S. Marines get there, there'll be a lot of dead enemy, shotgun shells, and beer cans everywhere.
Yeah, yep, I would have to agree.
Boys. So, so guys, look, 2 weeks ago when the VIX started to pop off, we didn't react fast enough and well enough at Trade Genius. So, we had to absorb a few days of selling here before we can get back in sync with the market. I'm not going to ignore it this time because we're also looking for an ABC pattern too, Phil. We got to flush out a final low here so that then we can push up into the election.
Yeah. So, essentially, guys, what we're looking at is you want to be defensive here, but also at the same time, if something doesn't really transpire or there is de-escalation, this market's going to pop really quickly to the upside. So I can't give you a definitive yes or no here on what the direction is. It's really kind of like taking it day by day, but just know that if there is any kind of de-escalation, I think you're going to see this market rip. And then I think that kicks off a move that can take us all the way into October. I was kind of leery about going into mid-August, but now it looks like the more traditional seasonality is taking hold, and that takes us up into September, a pullback, and then up into November, actually. Now the question will be, do we make new highs on that, or is it going to be lower highs? So my lean would be that we have to be open to the possibility, especially if things are starting to simmer down in terms of geopolitical tensions, that you can see new all-time highs. So that's my belief in what's going to happen. I will change course, though, if things start going haywire at any point this week.
Yeah, I mean, look, news trumps macro.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, let us know what you think is going to happen. You think things are going to pop off in the Middle East? Market's going to head for new lows, or are we going to see higher highs in the weeks to come? Post your comments below. We'd love to read them. As always, check out our stuff over at tradegenius.co. We're entering very volatile times, and it's going to get even worse as we head toward election and into the end of the year with recession looming. If you need help navigating these markets, head over there. We'd love to see you in the room. Thanks, Bob. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. Take care.
Trade Genius.